What we're going to do now is we're going to continue adding and subtracting rationals. When we're looking at these, what we're noticing is that we have a different denominator. So we have x and we have x plus 2. So our common denominator is going to be the product of the two. So what we have as our common denominator is x and x plus 2. We're going to do that for both of the terms. So that means that when our common denominator is x and x plus 2, on this side, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply it by x plus 2. And on this side, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply it by x. Now, remember, we have to distribute, so the 4 is going to be distributed to each of the terms. So we get 4x plus 8 for the first term, and then for the second term, we multiply the 5 and the x to get 5x. What we're going to do next is we're going to add the like terms because we have a common denominator. So our common denominator is x plus 2. When we add the like terms, we have 4x and 5x. That right there gives us 9x. And then what we have is 8. Now, we're not only simplifying, we're also stating the excluded values. Now, excluded values, we've been doing that for a little while. It's what makes the denominator 0. So when we're trying to find our excluded values, what we're doing is we're looking to see what values give us 0 in the denominator. We see that x cannot equal 0 for this term. And then for this one right there, it can't be -2. If you remember, it's always opposites. So those are our two different answers. Now, looking at letter B, what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look for a common denominator. Our common denominator is going to be the product of the two. So what we have is we have 3x and we have x minus 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply our first term by the x minus 5. We're going to multiply our second term by the 3x. So we're going to distribute the 6 to each of the terms. That gives us 6x minus 30. And then right here, what we have is minus 6x. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to subtract. So we have to look closely. What we have is 6x minus 6x. That, of course, becomes 0. So what we're left with is -30. And of course, we keep the denominator the same, 3x and then x minus 5. That right there is our first answer. That's the simplifying. Now what we're going to do is we're going to state our excluded values. Our excluded values, once again, it's what makes the denominator 0. So right here, what would make it 0 would be 0. Remember, all monomials are always 0. Monomials meaning one term. And with this one right here, what number we plug into x to make it 0 would be 5, because 5 minus 5 is 0. That's how we state our excluded values. Now, if we're looking at letter C, once again, we're going to do the same process. We're going to look for a common denominator. And once again, that's going to be the product of the two. So we have 5x and we have x plus 8. We have 5x and we have x plus 8. So that means that we're multiplying our first term by x plus 8. And our second term, we're going to multiply it by 5x. So when we multiply the 1 by each of the terms, we get an x and an 8. And when we multiply the 5x by each of the terms, what we get is 5x squared minus 15. We're going to add the like terms. So this is our only squared. So we're going to bring down the 5x squared. When we're looking at the x's, we have an x and a -15x, so it's minus 14x. And then our constant value is 8, so we put this. And our common denominator is 5x and x plus 8. Now that right there is our first answer. That's the simplifying part. Now what we're going to do is we're going to state our excluded values. Remember, when we're stating our excluded values, we're looking for values that give us 0 in the denominator. These are the values that x cannot be because we can't divide something by 0. So with our first one, it's a monomial, and all monomials are 0. And for our binomial, remember binomial means two terms. Whatever gives us a 0 right here, in this case, it's going to be -8.